Hi everyone, this is Menz here playing the VK2801 here on Swamp. Now, in this battle, I'm in a tier 8 match, so got to be a little bit careful considering, you know, a few tanks can take a pretty good chunk of my HP off, and even that Borsig on the enemy team can take off a pretty, pretty much all my HP, to say the least. Anyway, starting out here, before I begin this replay, playing a light tank, well, A, it depends on the map, and B, your team and the enemy team. I'm kind of looking at my team. I have quite a few medium tanks, and you know, we have 2 SPGs, they have 2 as well. The enemy team has a little bit, slower makeup on their team. It's like really, their fastest tanks are towards the bottom of their list here. Only tier 6s are very fast on their team. Outside of that, the rest of their tank list is pretty slow. Considering that, enemies, mainly spawn within this area in the upper left-hand corner. And, being a tier 6, they're not too inclined to push up very fast into, the castle area here. Now, considering this, a lot of times I see light tanks, they'll go spot in the north. They might go into the swamp area in the center, which pretty much means death to them eventually. Like, even if you get a couple spots in the beginning, typically you're not going to get out of there alive unless, your team's doing extremely well. So a lot of times what I like to do in a light tank, coming from this side, even the other sides, it's doable, but a little bit more difficult. I'll actually run up on the enemy side here. Considering the worst that happens is, you spot another fast tank here, you kind of peel back really quickly. But when it works, you can pretty much spot this entire side before they're able to really react to you. So considering that, that's going to be, kind of my goal to at least start with. With the VK here, you have, like, I use the derp gun on it and mainly fire HE out of it. I carry AP for some reason. Honestly, I've just forgotten to take it off because I'd rather, if I'm not using HE, I'd just rather use the heat shells because really 64 millimeters penetration isn't that good at tier 6. 104 is at least workable on the side and rear of like a light tank. Like AP, you can use them on mediums and like lights, but I'd rather just stick to heat if I'm going outside of HE rounds. So at least beginning here, the other reason I wanted to push here, because hopefully I can kind of spot for my team, because if there's no enemies here, a lot of times your team takes the really slow route, and then they sit up here and they kind of look at each other like, huh? There's no enemy? Like, and they're kind of confused. So I'm trying to prevent that. Now, a lot of times I just kind of take pot shots in this thing if I'm spotted. Because with HE, sometimes, it's better just to take the shot and miss than it is to sit there, aim in, and then die. Fortunately for me, I'm able to kind of zip up here. I don't get seen early enough for them to actually, do anything against me. But at this point, they're not up here yet, so it's basically in my best interest to try to get a little bit of damage off here. I could have stopped here initially and taken a shot safely, but I didn't really think like, I'm gonna do some damage here. But it's still gonna be a KV2 up here against myself, Panther 8, AMX 12T. If he just decides to push up here, he can get shot from this area, but really at this point, they know I'm up here. I've only gotten 35 spotting damage. I ended up with a little over 1,300. But surprisingly, I do 2,100 damage in this match. Now, I really have to be a little bit careful, but fortunately, I kind of saw the KV2 wasn't aiming my way. His turret's slow enough, and they're not really giving me any credit for, being a light tank. They're kind of looking mainly at that Panther like, oh, this guy can't really do too much against us. So far in, I've damaged a couple modules, and I'm starting to get a little bit more attention drawn to me, considering, the reload on this isn't too bad. Even with HE doing, little bits of like 100 damage, you're damaging modules, guns, even though a gun is a module. You know, you're tracking them, you're knocking crew members out, and you're chipping a little bit of HP off, which, you know, is pretty damn annoying. Even say if you're in a tier 8 tank, someone chip away, you know, 100 HP at a time, you're going to feel it. Now, a super Persian fortunately just tracks me here, and he's kind of, you know, chasing me, but, you know, I'm not going to swap over to like AP or heat because I can't penetrate him. So I'm still sticking with my guns with HE. And at this point, we're down to just myself and the Panther. This Cairnavon is flanking him, and I'm a little bit concerned. So I'm going to run back this way. I swap over to heat because I know that I'll be loaded by the time I actually need to take a shot here. And fortunately, I critical hit him. If I had HE there, I would at least done damage. But, you know, I took a risk with heat, and unfortunately I probably hit just the top part of his track, and it didn't connect. Now, AP there probably wouldn't have penetrated him either, depending on the penetration roll. At this point, I still only have 700 damage, 450 spotting damage, but still chugging along here. I got a decent amount of HP. KV2, unfortunately for him, can't shoot me because his turret, you know, is a little bit too far up on the tank for him to be able to aim back, and this thing's pretty compact, so you're not going to stick out much. But the trick in a light tank, especially one like this where, you know, its gun is able to pretty much damage anything it comes across. You're not going to do a lot of damage, but you're going to annoy them with module damage, and you're going to do a bit of HP damage. And if you get lucky, you're going to get a shit ton of damage if you know, hit like a lightly armored tank. I just barely am over 1,000 damage here, and, you know, at this point, our team, you know, we're in a little bit of a lead, but still nothing to really celebrate about. So I'm going to go back into scouting mode, in a way. You know, I really was just focusing on damage earlier. Enemy didn't really give me any credit, and, you know, unfortunately for them, I'm still alive, and most of them are dead up there. At this point, you know, I'm going to, you know, just chip away at the T-92, but since I'm looking at the rear of his tank, why not swap to a heat shell? And I bounce again. So again, heat shell didn't work here. And, you know, it's something where it is really hit or miss, but, you know, it's worth the shot every now and then. I've had matches where I penetrate every heat shell, and it just, you know, annoys the hell out of people getting whacked for that amount of damage, you know, from a tier 6 light. Fortunately, I tracked the T-29 back there and got a lot of assist damage with that. And this little SPG over here, you know, I don't even know if he had even noticed until I shot him there, because I was fairly sure that he had saw me, but unfortunately for him, you know, I take him out there with one HE shot. But it's still closer than I would like here. You know, we're up by 1, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's definitely a little iffy, because, you know, our top tank is essentially our SPG, but fortunately their T-37 makes a little bit of a mistake here. I also make a mistake. I push in here, where, you know, I was trying to kind of play it safe. However, seeing the super Pershing in our base, which he's a little bit less HP now, but he still has a pretty decent amount, you know, starting to scare me. And when this TD comes around, I'm like, shit, like, I'm dead. And especially when I was going to try to get up when he was going to go down, but yeah, it didn't exactly work out in his favor, being down there. I finally penetrate him with one heat shell there. The T-37 dies, you know, by crashing off the cliff. And there's my one heat pen of the match. I always try to fling a couple heat shells in. It's like AP, like, you can also do that, but I'd rather go with a little bit more penetration at the risk of hitting like a track or something. But more or less, just zooming around here, more or less like really the VK, I think it's a really good scout tank because not only is it small, it's very nimble, has a little bit of armor tied to it too, where you can get some pretty funny bounces off of it, because you know it has that slope where other light tanks can bounce off of you, if you're lucky. But more or less, you know, damage wise, I find this, compared to some other tier 6 lights and mid-tier lights, can do a surprising amount of damage in higher tiers because you have that usable HE round. It's basically capable of, you know, damaging tier 8s, or at least knocking modules out, which unfortunately really isn't counted as, you know, much as it probably should have as far as XP wise. But you know, nonetheless, this is a very capable light tank, and it's pretty fun annoying the hell out of people with the little derp gun on it. It does have another gun that is viable, but it's up to you whether you want to use, you know, the little derp gun on this or use the more standard gun. Now, I'm trying to stay stuff here, but I should have just shut up because the Super Persian couldn't make it to the cap. Our M12, he is going to kill him here, I believe. But I was definitely getting a little bit, you know, concerned because the Super Persian was going straight to cap. Not that I think he could have made it there, but it's always a possibility. But our M12 did the right thing here, and, you know, he held his shot. Super Persian still had about 1-2 seconds till he loaded it, and you know, fortunately he came out on top there. All right, so to end game screens here, I end up having an ace tanker match. Considering the amount of damage and spotting damage, I was looking forward to getting an ace here. I think it was my first ace in the VK. The second screen, I do the second most amount of damage on my team. Not in the match, considering their Super Persian ISU 122S. You know, they did a very good job as well. But unfortunately, you know, it takes a team to win. But our Strev M4257 did a very good job, considering they did 2,400 damage. And then finally, you know, I shoot 25 times, I hit 20, I only penetrate 17, which HE, you know, they didn't technically penetrate, but they did do damage. And I splashed essentially one tank with an HE shell. But total 2,100 damage, not bad for a tier 6 light at all. And, you know, only a little bit comes at over 300 meters. But hey, I'll take it. And then as far as assist damage, I assist with a little over 1,300, which isn't too shabby as well. Really, this tank, you know, I kind of switch, you know, in the beginning there, I did that scouting run. Then I switch into doing damage, less about trying to spot for my team. It's really good at kind of swapping between the two and kind of helping. When you're against higher tiers, you're definitely not going to want to rely on the HE rounds. And really the damage part, it's really just a good supplement to your, not enemy team, to your allies. Without me up there, that Panther 8.8 probably would have died fairly quickly. But, you know, at least with me running around, you know, kind of plinking him, we worked as a team and it works out. Whereas say, you know, say if I was in like a T-37 or something, its gun wouldn't have been able to reliably damage, you know, the Carnivarn, Super Pershing, those tanks up there that I was shooting at with HE. But anyway, thanks again for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Feel free to check out my live stream if you have not already here on YouTube. You can find a link to one of my previous live streams at the end of this video. Otherwise, feel free to subscribe or stop in and check my live stream out. If you're a subscriber, it does notify you when I go live. You can kind of tweak your YouTube notifications to get what you want, because, you know, not everyone wants notifications for everything. But regardless, it's there. And, you know, hopefully I'll see some of you guys on a live stream if you're a new viewer here. Otherwise, hopefully you guys have a good day, and I'll see you around. Have a good one.